Hello to everyone. I wish to welcome you to another video in this series of short videos we're doing on Floriana. I wish to thank everyone for the nice comments and queries and requests for further information that you have sent me. And due to the many requests I received from foreigners, I'll be doing this video in English so that everyone would understand better. I'm standing at one of my favorite spots in Floriana. Basically, it's one of my favorite because within a radius of less than 70 meters we can find 5 very important architectural monuments, most of which date back to the 16th century. At my shoulders one can see Saria Church. I'm standing in the doorway of Argotti Gardens, which is also very historical in itself. The Mall Gardens to my right, the Methodist Church, neo-Gothical church built in the 19th century, and last but not least, the Wignacourt Tower. Many people pass by this tower very frequently, the buses, etc., etc. But most of the people wouldn't know what this tower was all about. Why was this tower actually built? Practically, this tower was built in 1615 as part of the Wignacourt aqueduct. When Valletta was built, there wasn't enough water to cater for the needs of the population within Valletta. Basically, each house had its own water cistern, wells and other larger cisterns and a few streams, but these weren't enough to cater for the population that was now over around 30,000 in Valletta in those days. So several grandmasters decided to build an aqueduct from Rabat to bring water down to Valletta. Issa geologically Malta, we have the clay layer, and water collects above that layer. In Rabat, in the Rabat area, there is a higher clay layer, so water in Rabat stands higher than the other areas of the island. Hence, the Nice decided to pick up that water on the clay in the area of Rabat and bring it down to Valletta. Obviously, in the day there weren't any pumps, there weren't any technology, etc., etc. So the water had to come down to Valletta by gravity. Rabat is higher than Valletta, so that wasn't a problem, but the area, the road towards Valletta is not straight. Obviously there are valleys, depressions, and in those depressions we find the aqueduct. So the aqueduct was built in these depressions, okay, to make sure that the water flows down constantly at a constant level, at a constant angle from Rabat to Valletta, because if the line of inclination was lost before it should, that would mean that there would be a valley sort of in the aqueduct and the water would collect there. It will never arrive in Valletta. Obviously this aqueduct costed a lot of money, and Grandmaster Wignacourt paid himself for the funding of this aqueduct. Basically those arches that we see are in Rabat, Khattart, Saint Werner, etc. were built in these valleys. The land was valley-like, okay, there was a depression, so that aqueduct was built to make sure that the water flows down straight. So the water flowed from Rabat to Valletta in certain areas underground. When there was a hillside, it went underground. When there was a valley, it went overground in the aqueduct. Obviously, the water quality, there was the need to control the water quality to make sure that the water that is arriving in Valletta is not contaminated, etc. So there was the need to build inspection holes. The Wignacourt Tower is in fact an inspection hole, a water control towers. We know what inspection holes are. As we're passing in our roads with our car, we can feel the inspection holes as we jolt through them. Obviously this was the inspection hole that was built in the time of the knights. On the right hand side of the entrance into the tower, one can find a small fountain that acts as a water trough for horses to drink as they come into Valletta. This fountain is still used by Karozzin horses till present day, whereby they have a drink after their long journey before entering the city. Above the entrance that leads inside the tower, one can find two coats of arms, one of them pertaining to the Knights of St. John, and the other one can see the coat of arms belonging to Grandmaster Wignacourt, who founded the tower. The coats of arms of Grandmaster Wignacourt includes the fleur-de-lis. The flower, you can see 3 flowers, 2 sets of 3 flowers on the coats of arms. And in fact, the tower itself is topped by a fleur-de-lis. The last point on the tower, on top, there is a fleur-de-lis. Above the doorway, there is also an inscription that practically states that this water tower, headed by a fleur-de-lis, brought water inside Valletta, and there is a reference to the architect who designed the aqueduct system. And his name was Bontadino de Bontadinis. He was a specialist in water systems and designed this aqueduct after a lot of research and several attempts by several grandmasters. Finally, in 1615, and we have the date as well, this aqueduct was finalized. Above the inscription, interestingly, we can see the face of a lion and 2 other fleur-de-lis above the inscription and another one below it to give it the mark of Grandmaster Wignacourt. In fact, fleur-de-lis, the town, took its name from this Grandmaster because the aqueduct passed from it, and there was that famous arch in fleur-de-lis that was reconstructed, and it had this similar fleur-de-lis, this similar emblem pertaining to Grandmaster Wignacourt. One must note that this tower was actually one of the very first buildings in Floriana. Even before the building of the Floriana lines, we find in old maps that this tower was already in existence. In fact, it's dated 1615. So this tower, together with Saria Church, the Capuchin Convent, and the Mall Gardens were already there even before the Floriana lines themselves were built. One may ask, what is actually inside the tower? Practically, the tower has very wide walls, and inside there's just the inspection hole to monitor the water, and which is now closed, obviously, because the aqueduct is no longer used, and there's a spiral staircase that goes up on top, on the top part of the tower, just for maintenance, etc. So practically, this whole tower is simply an ornament, okay? The water inspection hole is on the floor. It's not up there, so... But this is how the Knights of Malta made things. So everything was grand, everything was pompous, and everything was done well, and everything was done and made to last, okay? When one considers the period during which this aqueduct was built, one remains astonished at the craftsmanship and skill and planning they had. Okay, so today you get a tiler at home and you ask him to make the floor tiles slant in one direction so that the water goes in one direction, rainwater, and he doesn't manage to get it right. And the Knights, with the little instrumentation and little technology they had, they managed to build this immaculate aqueduct leading water by gravity from Rabat into Valletta. I hope you found this information interesting, and if you found this information interesting, I urge you to follow us so that you receive more of these videos in the near future. I also remind you that Floriana is not only football, the Festa or the Fossos Arena, okay? Floriana is much more. It's only there for us to be discovered.